Okay people, progress on the GNEriC Cyclekart. We've got a few more bits and pieces, primarily, and it's mocked up at this moment in time. We've got this lovely axle from the Cyclekart workshop. Mark Underdown's put this one together for us. You can buy these from his shop. They're straight axles for GN type cars, cycle carts. They come loosely tacked together. The welding's done on the pin inclination, which is 15 degrees ish, I think. Seems to go about right for the centre of the tyre when you mock things up. These are all loose, so you can weld them when you get your springs in place and find out where everything lives. You can see I've just sort of generally bolted things on just to see how it's going to look. Everything's movable and loose, ready for final fit up, and I won't start welding that front axle until we've got something like a front suspension system. Again, because it's not welded, you can put your own caster angle on. Got bearings in the seats, and then you've got these little babies. Now you can see they've got 4 steering arms on them, and that's so you've got a choice of where to put your takeoff. So if your springs are in the way, you don't have to use the top arm, you can use the bottom arm. If you want to go forward, the Ackerman's right for both of them for about well, having measured it, it's just somewhere under a 1.8 metre wheelbase, which is about what I'm doing, so it's about right. The spindles are not welded on. They're held in place by a little screw at the back, which will help you align things, and that's one of the last jobs there, the very last jobs that I will do. When I've got the chassis somewhere near rolling, I'll get the wheels aligned so that I'm gonna go for, I know it's not traditional for a GN, but I'm going to go for 0 camber and tack them up and then weld them up properly. I might put a little bit more V there. You can see a little bit of V on the bottom of the seat there. They're already cut probably at about 15 degrees. Might need a little bit of filing and finishing before I get the angle perfect on them, but that's the nature of them. So yeah, all in all, very pleased with what I've got there from the Cyclekart workshop, and Mark, he's done a good job on those. Nice bit of welding around there, they won't come off. To the mock-up of the front suspension, I've gone for a suspension system a little bit like the one on the GN Jap that everybody looks at, where I've got an underslung chassis, the springs on top of the chassis, and then this doohickey sticking up here, which will be one either side. That's just a mock-up. And that I'm going to weld on, that's just a piece of wood there just to space everything out. I'm going to weld onto a piece of 2" by 1" box section steel, and they're going to look a bit like that when they're made up. So you will have the spring clamp integral to the thing that holds that little rose joint on there. Okay, so that's the idea at the front. The chassis is sort of like rough cut at the moment. There's still bits to go on, lots of bits to go on, but the members are gonna look a little bit like that. Now I looked out with these ladder rails that there's exactly 80mm between those two little beads there, so 2 pieces of 40mm square tube are going to form those, and there's a 5mm, just under 5mm lip there, you can see that. Now I can make that space up with some 5mm alley bar, and again for my bearings I'm going to have to make that space up there, which will act as a spreader plate across the top of that as well, so the inner bearings will be well fixed. I'm going to make up little blocks there, and then everything's going to get fixed on with little corner blocks, and they're all getting glued in with MMA adhesive. Now if you've not come across it, MMA is methyl methacrylate. It's a relatively new, some say acrylic based adhesive, which doesn't set as hard as typical epoxies, which can be brittle under shock, but it has a very, very strong bond. You're looking at, in well prepared aluminium, about 2,200 pounds per square inch bonding, which, considering the size of the fillets that we'll put on with these bits of angle, will be equivalent to each little bit that we put on, which is going to be 80mm long, will have enough surface area on one side to be equivalent to 2 M8 8.8 grade bolts, but with a load evenly spread across its surface area, so you don't get any point load like you would on a bolt. So theoretically, if I do my preparation right, that adhesive should hold everything together. It's a Cyclekart. Could it fail? Of course it can fail. Hopefully it won't fail disastrously. By the time I've got everything glued in and settled in, I've got mechanical purchase there and there. I will have corner plates both sides of each bracket, so that'll be equivalent of 4 M8 bolts into the rails glued on both sides, and on the top then I will make up the height difference, and I'll put plates on there which I'll glue and rivet on, so that's belt and braces. I think that when I've done that, that is going to be super strong, and even in flex and twist I don't think anything is going to come to bits. I've got a bit of faith in it now. Things seem to be coming together. I'm sure somebody will tell me otherwise. I've had a few things that people have talked about in questions, where to get the diff from. I think I answered that in the questions for the last video. Why not use foam instead of using resin? Well, if I put foam in these rails, I think it's going to spread and come out of all the holes, and I'm not sure about the crush strength. I've reinforced, you won't be able to see it but I can feel it, a piece of fiberglass and fiberglass resin in underneath where the bolts are going to go through, there and there, and you can see the reinforcing there on the front of that one and that one for the purchases for the springs. I might experiment and put some squirty foam inside these ones, but with the spreader plates I don't know that they're going to need them, so we'll have a think about that one anyway. It's a thought. 2 people have mentioned it to me, so there must be something behind it. I think Lotus maybe have used a similar system back in the day for some of the chassis rails to strengthen up chassis. So that's where I am with it at this moment in time. It's coming along, it's not finished. Cyclekarts are never finished, remember that, but we're making a little bit of progress. Things seem to be coming together in some sort of plan. Wheelbase, it's looking at the moment not even 1.8, and it looks like I have got more room in the cockpit than I have in either the Auto Union or the three-wheeler, so it will be drivable. and not a lot else to report really. I'm waiting on a couple of bits. I've got my bearings there that are going to go on the axle. Those are just mocked up with old shells at this moment in time, so I can get better datums before I start gluing things together. I probably will put a couple of fasteners in here and there to hold things until the glue dries more than anything else, but that's the plan. So, another video. See you later.